but
Also
introducing
fine.
the anatta
Yeah.
perspective in
Direct
observing the
experience.
phenomena.
Direct
Yeah,
experience of observing phenomena, right?
yeah.
How are we doing on time?
I don't know. You tell me.
All
I'm
right.
fine.
Okay, good. All right. So let's shift over then. So we spoke about the seven awakening factors. The first one being mindfulness. The second one being Dhamma Vichaya. So that's what I thought we would kind of look a little bit more into today. And we'll start with you.
But I think that all the things that we talked about, for me, is part of the investigation factor.
Right. Yeah.
Like I said, you ask a question, or you introduce this type of perception, for example, of looking at the impermanence. This is a way to nourish the investigation, because when you say yourself, who's the owner of this body, who's the owner
Mm,
of this sensation, then it's an investigation question.
right. Yeah.
So this is what I said. Everything that I said, for me, it was part of developing or cultivating the factor of investigation of phenomena as a practice, and not just a moment when you see. See
Right.
the difference
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
As a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
practice, as
Yeah.
a practice. Yeah.
Okay. So this is interesting. So again, this is just the caveat. This is coming from my practice tradition. That this is a state that arises at a very specific point in the
Mm.
practice. Sorry, this is a factor that arises at a very specific place in the practice, and as you said, it can the let's say a more superficial investigation. You remind yourself to be
Yeah.
mindful,
Mm-hmm.
detach and observe, and let's investigate what's going on here. Can lead you to a
Mm-hmm.
deeper understanding and a deeper
Yeah.
understanding until you have a direct phenomenological.
Yeah.
And according to the Abhidhamma, or the Buddhist psychology, the characteristic of investigation is seeing. It's an intuitive knowledge into the dhammas, or the ultimate realities,
Mm.
specifically anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, unsatisfactory, non-self, and nibbana, which we can leave aside for a
Mm.
moment. But it's that seeing phenomenologically how namarupa, how mind and matter are marked by these three, are conditioned by these three marks of existence. That you'll either be observing phenomena when it's really deep in a state of change, or in a state of unsatisfactoriness, or maybe it's even wrong to use the word state, but in a characteristic of change, a characteristic of unsatisfactoriness, or
Mm.
a characteristic of non-self.
Yeah. So of course, this is already wisdom. I will not call it Dhamma Vichaya. I will call it a moment of vipassana, or a moment of panya, of
Mm,
wisdom, that is supported by the investigation factor.
right.
And I actually see it as something that you cultivate, and not just a description of the moment when you see the characteristic directly. This is a moment of vipassana,
So
clear seeing.
yeah, it's to go from, let's say, total ignorance, or a beginner meditator, or somebody
Mm-hmm.
who hasn't practiced any
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness at all, to this point that we're talking about now, is quite a big gap.
Yeah.
It takes some practice. It may take
Yeah.
20 minutes a day. It may take a weekend retreat. It may take a month retreat or something. Who knows? But it takes a certain amount of momentum in the
Yeah.
practice to reach that point. And you're saying that having this practice attitude
Mm-hmm.
of the awakening factor of investigation will actually kind of close that gap.
Yeah,
It
this is
leads
the
you
way to
forward.
close it.
That is the way to
This so
close it.
this is the way. This is called awakening factor, because when we develop these qualities, and we have to develop them, the
Yeah.
Buddha said they have to be developed and cultivated, then the way we see changes, and we see in a way that liberates us from a moment of dukkha, or from dukkha completely, if you're complete
Sure.
awakening. But this is
Progressively.
I
Progressively.
progressively,
Yeah.
I think it's all a progressive type
Mm-hmm.
of model.
Yeah.
And I see them as a practice when when you sit and you see that you're completely identified with something, and you just look at, for example, you ask, so what is the attitude, my attitude, to this moment of experience of pain, of emotional pain, of kind of identification with some story in the mind? And then you ask yourself, what is the relationship, what is my relationship to this moment of phenomena? This is an investigation factors practice. And then you see, for example, there is identification, and you can ask yourself, how do I feel this identification in the
Right.
body? This
Right.
is
Right.
identification, this is investigation practice. And you
Right.
see, for example, the contraction in the heart area. And then you release that, you put into practice the investigation for releasing of a moment of clinging. So I look at it not mostly when I teach and in my practice, I look at it as a practice and not just a description of a mind that becomes very, very clear. It's also that, but it's less important for us as practitioner in the moment of dukkha. How do we cultivate
It's yeah,
awakening factors and
exactly.
not, how do you say, bounding factors?
Right, right.